continuing our talk about finding our way around open G. In part 2, we talked about the first chord shape that we encounter in this tuning, which is that bar chord, that open bar chord shape. 5, 1, 3, 5. And I thought for this one, we'll talk about the next chord shape. And I'll kind of show you how to find it in this tuning, which is a useful thing to wrap your head around if you ever explore another tuning or something like that. If you kind of have an understanding of where the basic chords are in that shape, you can use this same process to figure out where the other chords are in that tuning. So for that open bar chord shape, we established that it's 5, 1, 3, 5 in the strings 4, 3, 2, 1, right? The same tones, the same scale degree tones are going to be present in a G chord no matter where it is. That's what makes a G chord in the key of G. So the trick is finding these same tones at the next position up the fingerboard. And they're going to be rearranged slightly. That's what you're going to find. I'm going to wait for this airplane. These are all closed position chord shapes, which means that all the shapes are fretting all the strings. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that I'm not sitting here saying that you need to use full chord shapes. The purpose of this exercise is really to understand where the chord is and where the tones are in it so that you can pick and choose where to find these notes and find the scales around them. You can use a full chord shape if you want. One of the beautiful things about open G tuning is that you do have this background of open strings that is a G major chord. So as long as you're playing notes that are within the G scale, it doesn't really matter if you've got a full chord shape going on or not. It's all going to sound pretty good against that backdrop of an open G chord. Having said that, it's useful to find these other shapes, and we're focused on the G chord itself because that gives you kind of your 1, 3, 5 tones out of the 7 tones in the scale at various spots in the neck. So how do we find that next chord shape? Let me show you. Okay, so we established that the open chord, the open G chord, is the 5, 1, 3, 5 on those strings. So we can start counting up the strings themselves to find these other chords. So the next one you're going to encounter is take your 4th string, it's the 5, right? Up a whole step to 6, up a whole step to 7, and up a half step to your 1, right? So that 5th fret on the 4th string matches your 3rd string. So that's a G, and we know it's going to be part of a G chord. So that's your first one, right? All right, now let's do the same thing with the 3rd string. That's your 1. We know the 3 is going to be the next tone there, so right? So up a whole step to 2, up a whole step to 3. So that's your next tone in this chord, right? So we've got the 4th string at the 5th fret, the 3rd string at the 4th fret. Now, how about that B string, the 2nd string? No, the next tone we're looking for is a 5, right? Because it's a 3 open. So up a half step to 4 and up a whole step to 5. So there's your 5 tone on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. So we've got that 5th fret on the 4th string, 4th fret on the 3rd string, and 3rd fret on the 2nd string, right? And then we also know that everything's repeated on the 4th and the 1st strings, right? Because they're both Ds. So it's this kind of weird, complicated looking chord, right? And some of you may pick up on the fact that, well, this is an F chord. If you've already learned an F chord, it's an F chord shape, right? If you're just used to the first position chords, then this probably is the most complicated one you're running into, that F chord. But if you slide it up a whole step, that's a G chord. If I include the 5th string there, it's right. It's a G chord. So that's the next shape that you're going to want to get familiar with in open G tuning. You can also use this shape to do relative tuning on your banjo, on a fretted banjo. It's easier. But you can, find that tone on the 5th fret of the 4th string and match it to your 3rd string. Then you can find the 4th fret on the 3rd string. That should match your 2nd string. And then that 3rd fret on your 2nd string should match the 1st string. And you can use that to tune it to itself. And then the 5th fret on the 1st string should match your drone string, right? I'm getting a little out of tune here sitting outside. So that's the second shape, right, that you run into in this tuning. And it gives you all the same clues that your first shape did in terms of where the scale is around it, as long as you understand where the tones are. So as we worked through this process, we discovered that while your open strings are 5, 1, 3, 5, this shape is 1, 3, 5, 1. Okay? 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1. Okay? And since you know where those are, you can find the scale around it, right? This is your 1 tone on the 4th string. Now you're looking for a 2 tone, right? So you've got your middle finger on a 3 tone. We know the 2 tone is a whole step away from the 3 tone. We also know it's a whole step away from the 1 tone. We can either go from the 1 on the 4th string to the 2, by going up the 4th string, or we can go down a whole step to the 2nd fret on the 3rd string. Right? So that 7th fret on your 4th string and the 2nd fret on your 3rd string are the same tone. It's the 2 tone in the scale. So that's the 2nd chord shape. I guess in the next video I'll talk about the 3rd chord shape, but I might pause in between and do a video on these intervals that we're talking about. It becomes useful to start understanding that, because each of these chord shapes can be used to find related chords all throughout the key, right? So you can find a G chord, you can find an A chord based off this bar shape, a B chord based off of it, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. But a bar chord's not going to be, it's not going to find all the chords for you that are in the key, right? Of the 7 chords, some of them are major, some of them are minor, and we know that this shape is only a major chord, so we're going to have to think about that a little bit. Likewise with this chord shape, you can move it up and down, just as we noted. This is an F chord, this is a G chord, this is an A chord if you go up a whole step, this is a B chord if you go up a whole step, this is a C chord if you go a half step, D chord, and so on. But only some of those are going to work for the key of G major, right? Because 3 of the chords are major, 3 of them are minor, and the other one is a whole different class of chord called a diminished chord. But I think it'll be useful to spend a little time maybe at the piano on the next video, sort of illustrating what's going on here. All right, we'll see you next time.